The diplomatic chamber aboard the convergence station hummed with the soft thrum of atmospheric processors, a constant reminder that this place existed in the void between stars. Lena stood before the observation window, her reflection barely visible against the canvas of distant nebulae. She traced the ridge of chitin along her jawline, the deep violet hue of her exoskeleton catching the station's artificial light in ways that made her stomach turn. Hideous. That's what the Voralian beauty standards had taught her. Too dark, too angular, too much like the worker caste instead of the refined aristocracy. Her compound eyes, 6 of them arranged in an asymmetrical pattern that spoke of genetic impurity, had been the subject of mockery since her larval stages. The elegant Voralians had 4 eyes, perfectly symmetrical, gleaming like polished obsidian. Lena's were irregular, mismatched in size, a biological error that marked her as lesser. She had learned to excel in other ways. Intelligence, strategy, diplomatic acumen. These became her armor against a society that judged her unworthy based on her appearance alone. When the Galactic Council assigned her to be the Voralian representative for first contact with humanity, she knew it was because they considered her expendable. If the humans proved hostile, if the mission failed, no one would mourn the loss of the ugly diplomat. The door to the chamber whispered open, and Lena turned sharply, her secondary arms folding against her thorax in a defensive posture she had never quite been able to suppress. The human stood in the doorway, and for a moment neither spoke. Oliver was tall by human standards, with dark skin that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and eyes the color of Earth's oceans, a world Lena had studied extensively in preparation for this meeting. He wore the simple uniform of the Terran Diplomatic Corps, adorned with symbols that she had memorized: olive branches, stars, and the blue marble that represented his homeworld. "Ambassador Lena," he said, his voice carrying a warmth that the translator couldn't quite capture. "I'm Oliver Chen, representing the Terran United Government. It's an honor to finally meet you." She inclined her head in the formal Voralian greeting, keeping her gaze averted as was proper for someone of her status. "The honor is mine, Ambassador Chen. I trust your journey to the station was without incident?" "Please call me Oliver," he said, stepping into the room with an ease that surprised her. Most species maintained rigid formality during first contact protocols. And yes, the journey was smooth. Though I have to admit, nothing quite prepares you for seeing a place like this in person. He moved to stand beside her at the window, and Lena instinctively shifted away, creating distance between them. In her experience, proximity only invited closer scrutiny, and closer scrutiny inevitably led to disgust. But Oliver didn't seem to notice her retreat. He gazed out at the stars with an expression of wonder that seemed genuine. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he murmured. "All those worlds, all those possibilities." "Indeed," Lena replied, her voice carefully neutral. "The universe contains multitudes. Speaking of which," Oliver turned to face her fully, and Lena felt her defensive plates instinctively tighten across her shoulders. "I have to say, Ambassador, you are absolutely beautiful." The words hit her like a physical blow. For a long moment she could only stare at him, certain she had misheard or that the translator had malfunctioned. Beautiful? Her? The concept was so foreign, so impossible, that her normally sharp mind went blank. Excuse me?" she finally managed, her mandibles clicking in confusion. Oliver's expression shifted to concern. "I'm sorry, did I offend you? I know different species have different protocols about compliments, but I've been looking forward to meeting you for weeks. The reports about your diplomatic achievements are legendary, and honestly, Voralian physiology is fascinating. I've never seen chitin in that shade of violet before. It's stunning." Lena's 6 eyes widened in astonishment. You find my appearance aesthetically pleasing?" "Of course," Oliver said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the universe. "Why wouldn't I?" The question broke something inside her, some carefully constructed wall that had taken decades to build. "Because I am malformed," she said, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "My exoskeleton is too dark, my eyes are asymmetrical, my proportions are wrong. By every standard of Voralian beauty I am—" "Voralian standards," Oliver interrupted gently. "With respect, Ambassador, I'm not Voralian. And from a human perspective, you're remarkable. Those eyes, the way they catch the light differently depending on the angle. That's incredible. And the asymmetry? We humans have a concept called wabi-sabi, finding beauty in imperfection. Your features tell a story that perfect symmetry never could. Lena felt something wet forming at the edges of her eyes, a biological response she hadn't experienced since childhood. You're mocking me. I'm absolutely not, Oliver said firmly. Look, I know we've just met, but I want to be clear about something. Humanity has spent a long time learning that beauty isn't universal. It's not even consistent within our own species. We've had countless cultures with countless standards, and we've learned that every single one of them was both valid and limiting. When we look at other species, we don't try to fit you into our frameworks. We appreciate you for what you are. He took a step closer, and this time Lena didn't retreat. The Galactic Council sent us your file. I read about your work mediating the Krill-Sendai conflict, your papers on resource distribution ethics, your advocacy for lesser represented species. You're brilliant, Ambassador. And yes, you're also physically striking. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. I don't understand, Lena whispered. How can you see something that no one else sees? Maybe I see what everyone else is too blinded by their own biases to notice, Oliver suggested. Or maybe humanity is just weird. We fall in love with our robots. We cry over animated characters. We find beauty in the strangest places. We're a species that looks at a pile of rust and sees art. Why wouldn't we look at you and see something extraordinary? Lena was silent for a long moment, processing not just his words but the sincerity behind them. In his eyes she saw no deception, no hidden cruelty waiting to reveal itself. Just honest appreciation and something that might have been admiration. Your species is very strange, she said finally, and Oliver laughed, a warm, genuine sound that made her secondary arms relax. We get that a lot, he admitted. But strange isn't bad. In fact, I think it's exactly what this galaxy needs. Too many civilizations have become rigid, locked into their own narrow definitions of what's acceptable. Humanity's gift, if you can call it that, is our refusal to accept limitations on what we can appreciate or who we can care about. He extended his hand, palm up, in the human gesture she had studied. So how about we start this first contact over? Hi, I'm Oliver, and I'm genuinely honored to work with you. Lena looked at his hand, then at his face, and finally at her own reflection in the window. For the first time in her life, she didn't immediately catalog her flaws. Instead, she tried to see herself through human eyes, through Oliver's eyes. The violet chitin wasn't too dark. It was unique. Her asymmetrical eyes weren't mistakes. They were distinctive. Her angular features weren't harsh. They were striking. She reached out with her primary hand, her fingers, longer and more delicate than human digits, wrapping around his in a gesture of trust she had never offered before. I am Lena, she said, her voice stronger now. And perhaps I am honored as well. Oliver's smile widened, and Lena found herself captivated by the expression, so different from Voralian facial structures, yet somehow universally readable as joy. I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship, he said. Beautiful, Lena repeated, testing the word as if for the first time. Coming from him in this moment, it didn't sound like mockery or impossibility. It sounded like truth. As they stood together before the window, two species meeting for the first time, Lena felt something shift inside her. The universe suddenly seemed larger, more full of possibility than she had ever imagined. If humanity could look at her and see beauty, what other assumptions might they challenge? What other boundaries might they cross? For the first time in her life, Lena looked forward to finding out.